Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm the CakeDive and hope you guys are doing well because today we're going to be testing a new little series on the Cake Radio Show called the Weekend Roundup. Basically, I wanted to give you guys just going through a bunch of different topics, anything that any other videos and topics I want to run back through, and give you guys any additional thoughts, anything could happen, any new updates, any new topics I want to talk about that I didn't want to do a full-fledged video on. And that's just what I wanted to test out. So if you guys like this concept, be sure to support the podcast, whether it's on YouTube, by subscribing, liking the video, and commenting at Cake Radio Show. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platforms, rating the show and following the show and turning on reminders for more. Without that, let's get it started because we have a bunch of topics to run through. I want to talk about Tyla. I want to talk about revisiting some of the stuff that I saw in some of the Normani episodes that I covered. I want to talk about Nicki Minaj. They're saying push. And I want to talk about the Rainey Jr. situation that has been going on. So I hope I'm able to run through these in a short amount of time, but let's just hop into it. So I want to start with Tyla and the conversation about her blackness and the diaspora war situation that all arised out of, the Breakfast Club. So for those who don't know, Tyla is a South African artist. She has been making waves lately because her song blew up, Water. She had her debut album come out and do her numbers. The girls have been talking about her down like she is, one of the new rising stars in the moment right now. And recently, as in a few days ago, she popped up on the Breakfast Club and they were having a conversation, and Charlemagne asked her about her race and asked her, how, what are you? You some sort of black or Spanish? Type question. And Tyla looked over, and her team said, "We're not answering that question right now," and this broke out into a diaspora war conversation on Twitter, which it seems to always be the case because remember the question of Tyla calling herself and considering herself a colored woman is if she's actually black or not, and those conversations have already happened before, so it's just kind of a rerun of what we already did. And Tyla's come forward and been and issued statements and stuff like that, and this conversation has just been very it's been run through. We already had this conversation, and two, it's just very odd that we're running through and having this conversation again because one, Tyla hasn't really, she hasn't downplayed her blackness at all. And so the questions of if she's really black or not is just, it's being done in bad faith because I think that there's some people who are trying to discredit her blackness because she's, lighter skinned. And those who are trying to clarify and make it very obvious that she is black because she is lighter skinned, and we live in a colorist society that benefits off of black people who look lighter skinned, so there's that issue that we gotta kind of get out the way. So I mean that's really it. Outside of that, it's very we can't don't act shocked because this is the Breakfast Club. This is what the Breakfast Club really runs on. The Breakfast Club, because they're on the decline now. They're on the decline now. Charlemagne's still bald and still cheated. What's his face had the the housing fraud stuff that he was doing, the little scam that he was doing with his little friend that he not talking about no more. And then Angela Yee is gone, and we replace her with Jess Hilarious for some reason because I guess she needed booking, and she just she was a child left behind, I fear. So it's like we just kind of running through the motions with the show. The show really only gets talked about now when there's like a really ridiculous soundbite or clip or something that has happened lately with any of the guests. And that's kind of what the show is hinging on, because no one's really watching the show anymore. Like, the show gets numbers still, and it was one of it. Unfortunately, like, we do have to admit, it's one of the it is a part of Black media. Is one of the most notable radio shows and podcasts of Black media. As bad as that show is, there is that to admit, and it did benefit from being, a podcast radio esque show, by Black people coming into like the digital age and having the YouTube channels posting clips and episodes, doing that, early and being a pioneer of that before that is now just sort of a mainstay thing across radio shows, across podcasts, across everything. Um, that being said, again, as I touched on before, the show is on the ropes. The show's on the ropes because no one's watching for Charlemagne and that other dude. I'm blanking on his name, but you could and Just Hilarious. Like, no one's watching for Just Hilarious. No one cares about Just Hilarious until she says something stupid, and then everyone's just like, "Well, girl, you stupid." But the show like, it already gets a bad rap because the show sucks. Like, they don't have genuine conversations on there. They literally will say some of the stupidest things. We'll have some of the oddest guests come on. Like, they brought Tory Lanez out a couple of years ago, and then also had the nerve to interview Megan Thee Stallion when she dropped Hiss. It's kind of like there's that kind of weird thing in which it's like, oh, it's Black media, and then it's also kind of like, if you go to this state, if you go to this show, you know exactly what mess you're gonna get into. And I'm kind of confused why Tyla is going in this direction, because you can tell both with this and with Tyla being on like Kai Cenat's live stream that she is trying to court a younger, blacker, and when I mean blacker, I mean like Black American, African American audience. And I don't think that she needs to go those routes to get to that audience. Like, I think that this is just kind of a thing of, like, I think I remember hearing somebody like talk about like, oh, like, this is something that a lot of the new girls tend to do, because they're trying to like tap into like urban media in one hand, but also try to be for the girls and the gays. I think As Told by Kenya said that, but I don't agree, because I think that they're doing it not because they're trying, like, they are trying. Well, I agree in a sense that they're trying to tap into like urban media for sure, but they're doing that because they're trying to follow what has been done in the past. Like, everyone, like, there was a moment, and when I mean there was a moment, probably like last decade, where everybody would try going through and visiting the Breakfast Club for whatever. If you're Black and you had to promote something, like, they would make a stop at the Breakfast Club, for better or for worse. Now it's not really like that. Now it's kind of like, oh, you could avoid the Breakfast Club if you want to. If you want a little soundbite, if you want some attention, you pop up. But no one really goes to the Breakfast Club like that, or at least the audience, the girls and the gays who are like they gonna stand on their stuff, and they not trying to be messy. Like, they not tuning in. We're not tuning in to the Breakfast Club. And the audience is shrinking for the Breakfast Club. I think that the audience for Breakfast Club now is like the Shade Room audience, which is like older black men and women who are like who have their problematic things about them. But like, the girls don't really watch like that for real. So it's like, when I'm sitting watching the clip, and I'm seeing all this mess, everybody arguing over the clip, and what Tyla considers herself, I'm sitting here like, why the hell is Tyla on the Breakfast Club? Why are you here? what's going on here? But she doesn't need to do all that. Literally, what she could do, like, there's other black media, creators and black media, stations and stuff that she could make the stops to. I mean, Kai, I I have my thoughts about him, but it kind of makes sense, to make that stop because it seems like everybody what the rollout that people did with the Breakfast Club has kind of transitioned over to him. Like, people, it's kind of gotten to the point in which a lot of black artists don't make, like, if they want to make a stop, they'll stop at Kai's stream and goof off because they're trying to target that younger audience. So I can't really argue against that because that's just what things are right now. But there's other channels and stuff that if you're a girl's girl, or if you like if you have an audience that's like the girls and the gays, and are targeting like a younger blacker audience, there's other stuff that you could tune into. Like, I think his name is Tyrell. He does the Tyrell show, and he has like a few like TRL and stuff like that. Not TRL. Is it called TRL? I think it's the Tyrell show. Like, I'm pretty sure his name is Tyrell, but he has done a phenomenal job with the show that he has been doing with YouTube. On his YouTube channel, he's brought a lot of like the newer girls in. He had Chloe on the show. He had Coco Jones on the show. Like, the thing is, like, he has an audience base that I think that people will probably tune into going forward. Yeah, it's the okay, not Tyrell, but it's the Terrell show, and he has another show on that channel as well, called My Bluff. Like, he's been doing it. He's been doing the things. Like, I want to give him his flowers real quick for the show because he has really been doing his thing, having big guests pop up on the show, sing, do interviews. Like, he is kind of doing his thing. So I think that he could transition. Like, he already is bringing guests on for the show, but I think that he could lean into and become more of a play. And he is kind of that place already, but he can lean more into that and become the place where the girls can come by, do interviews, sing songs, tease new music, stuff like that. Like, they can make that work, and I think that I think that artists have made that work before. So, and he's just an example. I think that there's even other YouTubers who have like popped up on other, who work with artists and interviewed artists that work as well. Like, Naomi Cannibal had did an interview with an artist lately, and I think that really worked. Like, I think there's just other black YouTubers and black creators and stuff like that you could go out and do interviews with in court, rather than having to hop on the Breakfast Club. And if you had to stay traditional, if it's like, okay, I'm trying to court an audience base of like men and women, I mean, if it's hard to the audience base of the Breakfast Club is not really the audience base that's really gonna tap into music like that, unless the music's just consistently good. Like, Water was a phenomenon as is, and it didn't need interviews on the Breakfast Club and stuff like that. It was just a good song. So if you have a good song, it is going to it's going to reach the places that you want to reach as is. And I think that is just something that has to be admitted and has to be like pushed with these artists for sure. But I think Tyla's music has been good. She had a pretty good rollout and success with the album. I wish her nothing but success, but I think that hopping on the Breakfast Club was your first mistake. Now we gotta move on to Nicki Minaj. They're yelling push. She was seen on her Pink Friday 2 World Tour crying on stage, and she also did some cryptic tweets in which she was saying like, yes, single, and she did like a live stream or something in which she was like very visibly like not okay. Like, she's like crying, she got her little like sympathy bonnet on, and she is like cryptically talking about like she's cryptically giving love to like mothers and stuff like that. So everyone immediately clocks that something, like whether you a barb or whether you not a barb, everyone immediately clocks that like something is wrong with Nicki Minaj, and this is concerning because you like this is not something that she would traditionally do. Um, so everyone started hypothesizing that Kenneth Petty, who is Nicki's husband, who gets dragged because he has done some stuff to women in his life, unfortunately, and Nicki has stuck beside him, allegedly left her. And there's been new developments since then. Like there's been clips of both of them like hopping on planes together and stuff like that. So now it's kind of like maybe they're co-parenting still, like maybe they're like separated but they're doing co-parenting, or like it was just a minor hiccup. But or like we kind of know that this sometimes happens, like oh, like something goes down, something happens, and an artist or somebody or a public figure is like public about it, or does like does the song does something about it, talking about it, and then a few months or later or so, like they're back together and things are like cool. Well, like the Barbs make fun of Cardi B when this happens, like every 2 seconds when she has her issues with Offset every year or so. But it's very one. I think that people like those who like are critical of Nicki, and I'm one of those people too for valid reasons. A lot of people are, dragging her and dragging the situation like very fairly because it's like oh it's karma and stuff like that. But I think that we're forgetting that like there should be some room for concern. Like regardless of whether you like Nicki or not, like there should be some concern about her mental health or like what's going on, because there seems to be a history of stuff going on. Like there's this situation, then you had the situation which in Amsterdam she was arrested for having something on her, something green, and she had to crash out over Hiss with Megan Thee Stallion. Like there's just a lot of things that have been happening this year alone with Nicki Minaj that should have some room for concern as to if she's mentally like well. And no one's trying to really have that conversation, and I think that we should, because you have the Barbs who are like oh like Nicki is just going through it, like we love you Nicki da 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 da, like oh like these girls, these other rap girls, like they did too much, like they're going like these people going too far, da 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 da, like what we should support our queen, da 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 da. Like no one's trying to be honest about what's going on that side of things. And then you have those who are not Barbs and those who are dragging Nicki, who are like oh yes it's karma because you did this to Maggie, you did this that like it's absolutely true, and I absolutely agree, because like it's crazy that she's getting like she's asking for sympathy, when she was making fun of Megan Thee Stallion, getting shot. She was doing the subliminal post on Twitter. She made fun of her, her mom who passed, you know, made fun of her, former relationship with Party, like, and she's done this with like other girls too. Like it would be one thing if it was just a Megan thing, and even then, it's like you still doing too much. But she's had a consistent history about making fun of and harassing the newer girls, the newer rap girls, like below her, because of the ego and because of the misogyny war that is like embedded in her. So there's that. So like the fact that she has this history, and now now things are happening to her, and she is like struggling to process it. It's kind of like, girl, like we would extend grace if you extended grace onto others, and do unto you as you would do for others. So it's very it's hard for me to have sympathy, but I do have some like I am looking at this like this. There's something wrong. Somebody under like she's not around good company, because she remember the Amsterdam situation where she was like tweeting saying that oh like my team, like I fired my team because my team is against me, like they're doing this, doing that. You know, she does not have a good support system. She is like falling out with her team. She's questioning the trust of her team. You know, her husband may have allegedly parted ways with her. She has, it seems like she has nobody but like yes men being the barbs, and no one's willing to like, in like, even if this is like a true time of need for her, because again we don't know all the details, I don't know her personally, no one's giving her the true support that she needs. And that is an equal problem. That's as much of a problem as, you know, her dragging these rap girls and now she getting, you know, tasted for medicine. Like, but that's my thoughts on that. What else? We talked about Tyla. We talked about Nicki. We need to talk about the Michael Rainey Jr. situation. So there was a clip that went around from Ty James's live stream of, I believe his sister, like pretty much assaulting Michael Rainey Jr. Michael Rainey Jr. being an actor who is known for, you know, his appearance on the power shows, you know, the power shows from Stars, and she touched him. He was very visibly uncomfortable in the clip. He looked around because he was trying to see, you know, is there someone who could help him? No one helped him. He left the stream not too long after that happened, and Ty didn't like, he apologized for, you know, Michael after the backlash, but also in the moment was like, oh, like he kind of struggled with, you know, the apology really being genuine and like really handling that in the moment. And you have men mobilizing, and this seems to be a theme with men. And when I mean men, I'm not talking about, it's like not all men, because, you know, but it is very like like it's the men who are always in these conversations, because we always have these conversations in which it is men coming out being like, oh, like they're mobilizing on issues that like this is a very valid issue to mobilize on, but they're mobilizing for the wrong reasons. Because instead of the men like mobilizing and like dragging, because again, like this is an act of assault, this is a very unfortunate situation. It sucks that Michael Rainey Jr. had to go through this, especially live on stream in front of everybody, and now the clip is all over for the internet. People are mobilizing not because like, oh, like Ty put, you know, Ty and her and his sibling put, you know, this man into like a very compromising situation, and they're not holding his sister accountable for it. You know, the sister hasn't apologized and said anything. 50 Cent over here like making fun of it, dueling jokes, trolling and stuff like that. Like no one's like, oh, like let's boycott the shows, like let's give Michael some love, like that for real. Like instead they're like, oh, like they're mobilizing towards the sister in the sense that like, oh, like women always get away with these things, like women do these things too, and da 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 da. Like again, and I touched on this before, like it seems to be this thing in which people like men will mobilize and be like, oh, like men do like go through these things too, like men suffer too, and but they don't do it in like an act of like genuine concern, like, oh, like this is the thing that we have to handle, like men with mental health, like they always talk about like, oh, like men suffer with mental health and stuff the most, da 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 da, but the conversations are not genuine. They're conversations in this that are being like, that are done to masquerade that they want to just have like a gotcha moment for women. Like with this conversation with Michael Rainey Jr., like this is the conversations with about her sister and stuff, like about, you know, Ty's sister who like did this. The conversations are done as like a gotcha moment, like, oh, like women do this too, and y'all don't react the same way that y'all do with women, and da 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 da. But that's not what y'all should be like. That is not what we're supposed to be talking about here. Like that doesn't do anything useful for any party involved or not involved in the conversation. So it's like, and the same thing happens with the mental health conversation. It's like, oh, like, you know, men suffer from mental health and women don't care, like women don't do anything, like da 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 da. But the like men have perpetuated the systems of like, you know, like hypermasculinity and colorism and homophobic and all these things. And women are willing to have, like, they've made it clear they're willing to have these conversations. Women have made it clear with this situation, especially, that they're willing to, you know, hold, you know, Tai sister accountable and do the things that they need to do, because regardless of whether it was a man or a woman who did this, it's not okay. It was very gross and very disrespectful. But the fact that men are not having the conversations in good faith ruins, you know, any potential progress that could be made in these situations, because they don't care about the progress. They care about the gotcha moment. And it just is really unfortunate. Um, but I'm sending love to Michael. You know, I hope that, you know, he's doing well, because that's a really unfortunate situation that he had to go through. I hope that he's being supported by his loved ones. You know, 50 Cent too much of a troll. Like, I need him to shut up. Like, I know he old. I know he ain't putting out no music. I know he's stuck on Stars, even though he had that fallout with them and was starting to like cut off all those shows, but because no one else is really booking him for real. But he need to be a little bit nicer. He need to chill out, because this is getting ridiculous, especially the fact that this is one of the stars on your shows that you're cutting up and making fun of. Like, that's crazy. Like, where's your respect? Where's your empathy? But that's all I had to say on that. The last topic that I had to run on is, this is kind of a follow up piece to my Normani episodes that I've done. I've done 3 more Normani episodes. It's about to be more at this point. I did one talking about, you know, oh, like, don't set Normani up to fail. You know, I talked about what was wrong with the album rollout, and I did my initial, you know, thoughts on the album. And regarding the album rollout conversation, when I was having a conversation with my friends Aiden, and shout out to Aiden again, because he gave me his thoughts on the album. He wasn't feeling that. He thought the album was okay, but he wasn't really feeling it. And I was having a conversation. He was bringing up to me when we were having our conversation, his thoughts on the rollout, and he was like, "Oh, like, I know you're defending the rollout, but like, this is not a good rollout." And for me, it's like, I like, I feel like I'm not really defending the rollout like that. Like, for me, I'm defending it like, if I'm really defending the rollout of this album, because I have said that, like, oh, like, the worst part of the rollout has been how the songs have been handled, how like odd the release of the songs have been done, and like how the music videos have been delayed. Like, that is very strange. But she's still done like pretty much like, the only things that she hasn't done with this rollout at this point has been, you know, like, aggressive social media marketing pushes, which is like, I mean, that's commonplace nowadays, but like, the label can push that as they seem. And, you know, again, she hasn't been on social media like that for real, for her valid reasons. So it's like, and performances, which is like, we should get some performances. I'm ready for some performances from this album, because I thought the album was good. So that's really that on that. Like, I'm not really gonna do too much on that, because I've already talked about it ad nauseum with like the 2 previous episodes. But I did see a conversation in the comments on YouTube for the album rollout conversation, and I was seeing some people talk about like, oh, how, like, oh, like, the reason, like, I was seeing some people, I don't know if they're like stans of Normani, I don't know if they part of Nation or what, but they was like, oh, like, the reason the rollout is like this is because like, Normani's trying to protect her, like, protect the work from the new girls and stuff like that. Like, there's always sabotage and stuff like that. Da 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 da. And like, I'm I'm trying to hop on here and be like, no, like, let's shut that conversation down, because I don't know what y'all talking about. The conversation that people have of like the new girls trying to like compete with the other new girls is unrealistic. Like, I think there's already going to be competition that's forced on them as is, because we live in like the stan like everybody a stand mindset in which it's like, oh, like everybody competing with everybody and the charts matter and da 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 da. But I don't think that Normani feels like she's in competition with, you know, Chloe or Victoria Monet and stuff like that, because they're sisters. Like not by blood, but they're like sisters. Like you see them in pictures together, like they seem really chill. You know, they're working together on these projects. They're so in love to each other on these projects. Chloe's in the comments of the Dopamine post giving love to the album. You know, you have Victoria Monet literally being on the album, like helping co-write songs for Dopamine. You have um, Sierra like showing love and stuff like that. Like they there's no competition here, really. Like y'all are the ones making the competition, and you know, like the people were questioning Victoria, like in the comments were questioning Victoria Monet releasing "All Right" as like the single off her new album on Monday, but it's like I don't think that like I don't think that really is going to impact Dopamine sales that much because again, like Jaguar came out like last year, and again, it's just like a post album release single with a music video. Like that really doesn't do much for like that's not going to impact Normani sales at all because at the end of the day, people are going to stream the album if they want to stream the album. If they don't, they don't. Like that's just what it is. Um, I do need the other thing that I think is a little bit like I do think because like the rollout is the rollout is a little bit questionable. Like I can defend it up to as much as I can, but like I still am waiting to see, you know, what's the long term like look of this era. You know, like when are we gonna get vinyls and stuff like that? They said we're gonna get vinyls and CDs, but like when are we gonna get those pressings? Are we gonna get performances? When are we gonna get performances? Like it is, we still have a lot of questions. But again, like this is, you know, an era. We're still rolling out the album. The album just came out a few days ago. So we will just have to wait and see how things go out. But I think that those who are saying that like, oh, like she's doing this because she's trying to hide, you know, and protect herself from the new girls, or that like the new girls are competing with Normani, or that Normani's competing, like any of these new girls are competing with each other is ridiculous. Like y'all are trying to bring that weird, you know, rap girl like competition stuff that y'all be doing with them rap girls that don't even want to compete with each other, you know, to these new R&B and pop girls, and we don't need that. Like they don't even want that. Y'all look crazy. Y'all sound crazy. Do y'all not realize? But that's my thoughts on all that. This has been the roundup, the weekend roundup. I hope you guys loved. You know, I hope you guys liked this concept. I hope it was interesting enough. You know, I wanted to give something different and try. I want to keep trying out new shows on top of the Cake Radio show as well, to give you guys a little bit more variety. Bring guests on the podcast, stuff like that. You know, have some more fun, do some different experiments. I hope you guys, you know, let me know what you guys like, because I did this. I did, you know, hot or flop, the movie reviews, and you know, of course, the main Cake Radio show, you know, series. So let me know if you guys like this concept. Let me know your guys' thoughts on everything that I talked about. And that has been the Cake Radio Show. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel to get episodes before anybody else at Cake Radio Show. Be sure to follow the podcast and turn on notifications on your favorite podcast platform. And that has been it. This has been the Cake Dive, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.